Hello everyone. Hi, welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to go through important current affairs from 2nd May 2024. So guys, important articles that you must have read in the Hindu newspaper. We will summarize, we'll discuss all those important articles, and then we'll also have few passage based questions based on latest CLAT pattern that I would request you all to solve. So, without delaying it further, let's start the session. The very first lecture that we have here is on Animal Protection Bill. So, recently, an Animal Protection Bill it has been um, it has been introduced in the Parliament. All right, and this Animal Protection Bill it intends to replace Prevention to Cruelty of Animals Act 1960. All right, so this article very well. I mean, it analyzes the important provisions and the defects of the 1960 Act, as well as it also analyzes the lacunas in the introduced bill. All right. So let us go through the important points of this article. The very in the very first paragraph, it talks about a recent law which has been passed in Croatia, which is an European country, which talks about enhancing their animal cruelty laws and implementing stricter penalties. So you must be aware of the fact that recently, in fact, few cases were also filed at the Supreme Court and at various high courts in India with respect to stray dogs, right? वहां पे भी एनिमल क्रूल्टी की बात हो रही थी एंड 1960 का जो एक्ट है उससे रिलेटेड बात हो रही थी. व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ द एक्ट? द नेम ऑफ द एक्ट इज प्रिवेंशन ऑफ क्रूल्टी टू एनिमल्स एक्ट 1960. All right. So let us first understand Croatia's legislative changes. So the penal code it has increased penalties for unnecessary animal suffering, especially focusing on domestic pet abandonment. So in Croatia, what used to happen was that a lot of people initially they'll have pet like dogs and animals, but after a point of time they will abandon their domestic pet. And as you all know, just the way humans they get emotionally attached to their pet, animals they also develop that emotional attachment. They become entirely dependent on their owners, and abandoning them in such situation can also amount to animal cruelty. So in order to punish such kind of offense, Croatia came up with this law. All right. In India also, like I told you before, the issue of stray dog and killing of stray dog that was in news from quite some time now. In fact, one dog named Jay he was killed by the community, and it called for stronger animal cruelty laws in India. Now, what are the laws that we have currently here in India? So the current law is primarily governed by Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. Earlier, the provision was earlier before this 1960 Act, the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1890 was present, right? Now, the major issue with respect to this act is poor enforcement and minimal penalties, right? So, in fact, most of the penalties that we see under this particular act is non-cognizable in nature and bailable in nature. That means the police authorities they cannot directly arrest or they cannot take cognizance of any animal cruelty offense unless they have permission from the court. So this is one major lacuna. The second one is most of the offenses they have minimal penalties. Imprisonment is for like 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, like that. Then even the fines which are given under this act is very less, 100 rupees, 500 rupees, like that. In fact, from past 130 years or so, the penalties and especially the fines they have not been revised. So that is one major lacuna in the law, which has made it very ineffective in preventing animal cruelty. All right. Next, the article also talks about the impact of having minimal penalties on on preventing animal cruelty in the country. So generally, what we see is that the goal of any penal law is retribution, deterrence, and reformation. That means the punishment under the law is such that people those who are witnessing the justice being done, they will deter from committing such crime in future. So society in general, because of the heavy punishment imposed and through the penal law, others in the society, they will deter from committing similar kind of act, right? Then the idea behind having a penal law is also based on reformation, that you want to ultimately reform the culprit, all right? But by having minimal penal provisions in the law, the goals of retribution, deterrence, and reformation, they are not achieved. All right. Apart from that, like we have discussed before, even the enforcement is not up to the mark. All right. So these are some of the major issues. Now let's see what are the major shortcomings of the act. So many offences under the PCI Act are bailable and non-cognizable offence. That means if somebody who is accused of an offense under PCA Act, then he can get out of the prison as a matter of right. He will get bail as a matter of right. Okay? Then fines under the act have not been updated since 1890. So the previous act, PC Act, was enacted in the year 1890, and this was replaced by 1960 Act, right? Then the laws allows court direction to impose either fines or imprisonment, often resulting in minimal consequences for severe animal cruelty. So the discretion is there with the court whether they want to impose fines or they want to impose imprisonment. And in most of the cases, courts, they have preferred to impose fines, right? And that is the reason the offenders in most of the cases, they received minimal consequences for the grave acts. Then there are no provisions for community service as a form of punishment. All right. Now, the draft PCA bill, it was published for public comments and proposes significant changes like including fundamental freedoms for animals and enhancing penalties. However, it still allows court the option to impose fines or imprisonment for severe offenses, right? So that means this option of either going for fine or going for punishment, this can still make the law ineffective. So though the bill is in the right direction, but there are still some lacuna, there are still some issues that needs to be fixed. So guys, this is a very important article which was published on 2nd May, which was published in the Hindu on 2nd of May, right? So I would request all of you to read this article. I will also include the link of this article in the description below. So in case if you want to read the article, you can directly click on the link and read the entire article. It's a very good read. Those of you who are interested in knowing about animal rights, it'll be it'll help you a lot in understanding them. All right. Now the article was of such a nature that a passage can easily be made out of it, and especially a passage in CLAT. ठीक है? So उसी pattern पे based I have this particular article, the passage here, and इस passage के base पे कुछ questions भी होगा. So I want you to take some time. You can probably pause this particular video and read the passage, right? After reading the passage, you can again start the video, go to the next slide, and answer the questions which follows them. So please pause the video and go through the passage. All right. So this is the second slide. You can pause again and you can complete the passage. All right. Moving forward with the questions. So there are 6 questions under this passage, and these questions are, some of them are factual in nature, and some of them are based on your understanding of the passage. It is based on the same pattern which CLAT, which was followed in CLAT 2024 exam, the recently held CLAT exam. All right. So the first question that we have here is, bailable and non-bailable offences are currently defined under which law? ठीक है? ये bailable and non-bailable offences which was mentioned in the passage, ये किस law के अंदर है? Is it given in CRPC? Is it given in Code of Criminal Procedure? Or specific laws define whether the offences prescribed are bailable or non-bailable? And option D is both option B and C. So I would request all of you, to those of you who know the answer, please write it in the comment box, right? You can also check out these questions on our Telegram link. They on our Telegram channel. So there we post all these quizzes, and the explanation to all these questions are also there on our Telegram channel, right? So what is the correct answer? The correct answer is option D, both option B and C. Uh, so bailable, non-bailable offences, compoundable, non-compoundable offences, cognizable, non-cognizable offences, these are given in CRPC, Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. You must be aware of the fact that government has recently passed an act to replace it, although the act is still not in force. So can do you know the name of that particular act? If you know the name of the act, please write it in the comment box. सीआरपीसी को किस एक्ट, कौन सा एक्ट रिप्लेस करने वाला? अभी 3 इंपॉर्टेंट क्रिमिनल लॉ बिल्स जो है वो गवर्नमेंट ने पास किए हैं. सो इफ यू नो द आंसर, प्लीज राइट इट इन द कमेंट बॉक्स. ऑलराइट. सो बेलेबल, नॉन बेलेबल ऑफेंसेस, ये जो है वो सीआरपीसी में है. एंड स्पेसिफिक लॉज दे आल्सो prescribe, they also define whether the offenses given under that particular act, whether they are bailable or non bailable, whether they are cognizable or non cognizable. ठीक है, जैसे एनडीपीएस एक्ट के अंदर हो गया, जैसे से फॉर एग्जांपल प्रिवेंशन ऑफ क्रूल्टी टू एनिमल्स एक्ट हो गया, या प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट हो गया, इन सब के अंदर ये चीज मेंशन्ड है. ठीक है. देन नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, killing of animals in India can be punished under which of the following acts? So you have IPC. IPC, as you all know, Indian Penal Code 1860 में enact हुआ था, and this is the primary substantive law that we have in our country, right? Then Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. The passage thoroughly discussed this particular act. तो ये तो आंसर हो गई. Then Wildlife Protection Act 1972. ठीक है, ये भी है. तो इसका आंसर क्या होगा? सो गाइस, इस टाइप का अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है जहां पे ऑल ऑफ द अबव आंसर है, सो मोस्ट लाइकली ऑल ऑफ द अबव आंसर ही होता है. वी नो कि प्रिवेंशन ऑफ क्रूल्टी टू एनिमल्स एक्ट है, वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट के अंदर भी, इफ यू नो इफ यू हैव किल्ड सम एनी एनिमल which is there which is there which is part of the schedule attached to Wildlife Protection Act, then you can be held liable. In fact, यहाँ तो punishment और ज़्यादा severe है. Say for example, somebody who has killed a tiger, तो वो Wildlife Protection Act के अंदर में उसको imprisonment हो सकता है. ठीक है. Then you have Indian Penal Code. Now some provision of IPC ये भी जो है ये punishment prescribe करता है. Like say for example, section 428 and 429 IPC. ठीक है. So these are two provisions which prescribes punishment for killing animals in our country. So the correct answer is option D. Now the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act was first enacted in which year? वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन. ये पैसेज में भी था. अगर आप नोट्स मेरे देख रहे थे प्रीवियस स्लाइड में, तो वहां पे ये मेंशन था. द ईयर इज 1980. ठीक है. सो ओवर 130 इयर्स. एंड अभी भी इसमें जो मेन पैसेज में क्रिटिसिज्म था वो क्या था, कि जो फाइन्स थे, जो पनिशमेंट थे, वो बहुत ज्यादा एनहांस नहीं हुआ था. ठीक है. ऑल राइट, मूविंग ऑन. Yes. So the next question is, provisions with respect to protection of animals are mentioned in which part of the constitution? ये कौन से पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है जहां पे एनिमल प्रोटेक्शन की बात है? इज इट फंडामेंटल राइट्स एंड फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज, या डीपीएसपी? सो इफ यू विल एनालाइज ऑल द थ्री ऑप्शंस, बेसिकली आपको सेलेक्ट करना है कि फंडामेंटल राइट्स, डीपीएसपी एंड फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज, इन तीनों में से एनिमल राइट्स जो है वो एनिमल प्रोटेक्शन के बारे में जो है वो कौन कौन से पार्ट में मेंशन्ड है. ठीक है. सो फंडामेंटल राइट्स जो है वो डायरेक्टली कहीं पे भी एनिमल राइट्स के बारे में बात नहीं करता, या एनिमल प्रोटेक्शन के बारे में बात नहीं करता. द क्लोजेस्ट दैट यू कैन गेट इज आर्टिकल 21 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, राइट टू लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी. एंड दिस टॉक अबाउट द राइट टू क्लीन एनवायरमेंट. तो राइट टू क्लीन एनवायरमेंट है, और अभी रिसेंटली सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्लाइमेट चेंज से भी लिंक करके इसको कहा है. बट दो दिस एनिमल राइट्स आर एनिमल राइट्स या एनिमल क्रूल्टी जो है वो डायरेक्टली अभी तक आर्टिकल 21 का पार्ट लिंक नहीं हुआ है. दैट इज द रीजन फंडामेंटल राइट्स वी कैन नॉट से दैट. अंडर डीपीएसपी यू हैव आर्टिकल 48A which talks about protection of environment, conservation of environment and animals. तो आर्टिकल 48A DPSP which is part 4 of the Constitution, ये तो है ही. देन फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज जो है ये भी है. ठीक है. सो फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज के अंदर भी आता है. सो द करेक्ट आंसर इज ऑप्शन सी. पार्ट 4A के अंदर जो फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज है आर्टिकल 51A. ठीक है. सो फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज के अंदर भी एनिमल प्रोटेक्शन की बात होती है. देन व्हाट डज द ड्राफ्ट पीसीए अमेंडमेंट बिल प्रपोज? Has it proposed for eliminating fines entirely? The answer is no. Reducing the number of animal rights? This is also incorrect. This is also incorrect. So significant amendments including higher fines and fundamental freedoms too for animal. This is an interesting option. Then decriminalizing minor acts of cruelty. This is also not there. So the correct option is answer C. Fine. The article criticizes the penalties under the current PCA Act because they are. Now this is very interesting question. When you will analyze it or when you will answer this question, कहीं ना कहीं आप इस क्वेश्चन को आंसर करने में फंसोगे. दिस इज अ ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन. आई विल टेल यू द ट्रिक बिहाइंड इट. सो पहला ऑप्शन क्या है? इनएडिक्वेट एंड इनइफेक्टिव ड्यू टू पुअर एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ लीनियंट लॉज. दूसरा, सिवियर एंड हार्श एज मोस्ट ऑफ द offenses are non-bailable and cognizable. Is this option correct? The answer is no. In fact, article में हमने क्या पढ़ा था? Most of the offenses are bailable and non-cognizable. So this option is incorrect. Then meagre and ineffective as the offenses under the act are non-bailable and non-cognizable in nature. And then you have option C, A and C. Now friends, if you, I mean most of you जो एक बार cursory reading करेंगे ना, most of you will go with probably with option D. ठीक है. क्योंकि option D जो कि option A and option C दोनों कह रहा है, इसमें बात ऑलमोस्ट सेम कही गई है जो पैसेज में है. बट देयर इज जस्ट वन वर्ड which will make this option C an incorrect option, and that option is non-bailable nature of offenses. So in the passage what we have seen is that most of the offenses are bailable in nature. ठीक है. So bailable in nature है. And ये option क्या कह रहा है कि the acts are non-bailable in nature. So hence option C is incorrect. The correct option is option A. All right. So I hope it is clear. Now let's move on to next news article which was published in the Hindu. So guys, the headline of the Hindu, ठीक है, आज की जो headline थी उसमें था Supreme Court rejects plea for allocating spectrum without auction. Which spectrum we are talking about? So we are talking about टेलीकॉम स्पेक्ट्रम. ठीक है. टेलीकॉम स्पेक्ट्रम जो है उसके बारे में यहाँ बात हो रही है. सुप्रीम कोर्ट में गवर्नमेंट ने एक केस फाइल किया था seeking certain clarification that whether they can allocate spectrum through administrative orders. सिर्फ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर्स के थ्रू क्या वो स्पेक्ट्रम allocate कर सकते हैं without going for auction? तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस पर्टिकुलर पिटिशन को रिजेक्ट कर दिया. सुप्रीम कोर्ट के रजिस्ट्रार ने ही इसको रिजेक्ट कर दिया. सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हियरिंग भी स्टार्ट नहीं हुई. ठीक है. नाउ गवर्नमेंट हैज 15 days टू अपील इफ दे वांट टू, इफ यू आर नॉट हैप्पी विद दिस. तो इससे रिलेटेड जो है वो एक और बिल है जो अभी रिसेंटली पार्लियामेंट में टेबल हुआ है. दिस इज टेलीकॉम बिल. ठीक है. 2023. एंड टेलीकॉम बिल 2023 टॉक्स अबाउट सैटेलाइट स्पेक्ट्रम. तो इससे रिलेटेड है. जो जस्ट है इस पर्टिकुलर आर्टिकल का, आई जस्ट डिस्कस विथ यू. सो सुप्रीम कोर्ट्स डिसीजन, it has declined to receive an application from the center requesting permission for administrative allocation of spectrum. Which spectrum? Telecom spectrum. What was the reason for rejection? Supreme Court held that it was misconceived. The registrar of the Supreme Court, he said that the application itself is misconceived, citing that spectrum should only be allocated to private entities through an open and transparent auction process. So सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो रजिस्ट्रार है उन्होंने कहा कि ऑक्शन प्रोसेस होना जरूरी है. क्यों? क्योंकि इट इज अ पब्लिक गुड, इट्स अ स्कार्स गुड, एंड ऐसे जो पब्लिक रिसोर्सेज हैं उसको गवर्नमेंट प्रॉपर ऑक्शन प्रोसेस के थ्रू एलोकेट करे. अदरवाइज आर्बिट्रेरीनेस के चांसेस हैं. एंड वी ऑल नो if the process of allocation of spectrum is arbitrary, then it will violate article 14 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, ठीक है. राइट टू इक्वालिटी वायलेट होता है ना अगर इफ द एक्शन ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट इज आर्बिट्रेरी इन नेचर, ठीक है. Now, does this decision aligns with Supreme Court stance in 2G spectrum case? So 2G spectrum case आज से almost 12 साल पहले हुआ था, wherein 2G spectrums were allocated to various players by which government? UPA government, है ना? So UPA 2 they had allocated 2G spectrum to a lot of private players without following a proper process, and this led and Supreme Court had objected to adoption of such process. इसमें क्या हो रहा था? फर्स्ट कम एंड फर्स्ट सर्व, ठीक है. फर्स्ट कम एंड फर्स्ट सर्व बेसिस, इस बेसिस पे telecom spectrum were allocated. Now, Supreme Court objected to adoption of such processes, and licenses of a lot of private players were cancelled. And government was asked to allocate the spectrum based on tender process, proper auction process के through allocate करने की बात हुई. ऐसा क्यों कहा गया? क्योंकि auction होगा तो transparency बढ़ेगी, chances of arbitrariness will go down, ठीक है, and hence Article 14 will not be infringed. Now, concept of administrative allocation. So it had been approved. Administrative allocation would have placed the government solely in charge of selecting operators for distributing the spectrum, which is not good for the country at large. Okay. Now, what is the legal framework? So Order 15, Rule 5 of Supreme Court Rules 2013, it allows for refusal of a petition if it is considered to have no reasonable cause or is frivolous or contains scandalous nature. So registrar of the Supreme Court has used Order 15, Rule 5 of Supreme Court rules. ठीक है. Next, government has a 15-day period to appeal against it. Government's argument is that commercial telecom services तो हैं ही, उसके साथ साथ they are also essential for public interest and government nation security, disaster preparedness, and there are other things which can be impacted, and hence government should be allowed to choose the right player. Auction में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, इस तरह से करना चाहिए, ठीक है. Next, specific legal references. So of course 2G spectrum case जो है उससे related बात हुई थी. So the registrar has cited that particular judgment. It was a constitution bench judgment given in the year 2012, and it held necessity of using auctions and refused to alter the original verdict. All right. Next. So again, this passage is based on the news article that we have discussed just now. So I'll give you 5 minutes to go through the passage, and based on this passage, we'll have certain questions. All right. So please pause the video, and or you can take a screenshot of the video. You can read the entire passage, and you can answer the subsequent questions which follows. All right, guys, let's move forward. Questions. So, which of the following is allowed for allocation of telecom spectrum? Based on your understanding of the passage, you have to answer this. So, an executive order passed by union government for allocation of telecom spectrum based on proposals by private entity. All right. Next, order passed by union government for allocation of telecom spectrum based on scrutinizing proposals received through a fair tender process. Okay. Next, through a judicial order passed by TRAI for allocation of telecom spectrum. So, guys, based on the understanding of the passage, I'm pretty sure that you can rule this thing out. कहीं पे भी किसी भी judicial order की बात हुई ही नहीं है. So, option C is incorrect. ठीक है, इसको तो पहले ही हम eliminate कर देते हैं. Next question is, the government can adopt any process for discharge of sovereign and public interest function. Now, do you think government can adopt any process? In fact, Supreme Court ने इसी चीज को तो लेके criticize किया है कि you cannot adopt any process. Your process has to be fair. Therefore, this option is also incorrect. ठीक है? Now we have to see whether option A is correct or option B is correct. So option A talks about issuance of executive orders, allocation of spectrum based on executive orders and based on the proposal sent by private companies. क्या यहाँ auction की बात है कहीं पे भी? यहाँ ऑप्शन ए जो है कहीं से भी ऑप्शन की बात नहीं कर रहा, ठीक है। जबकि आर्टिकल में हमने क्या कहा है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट के थ्रू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट वाज एब्सोल्युटली क्लियर that a natural resource, a valuable natural resource, must be allocated only after a, or only after an auction process. ठीक है, hence option A is incorrect and option B is correct because it talks about fair tender process. So tender is nothing but auction. ठीक है, जो tender है this is auction. So government auction जो होते हैं वो होता है tender. Clear? The Constitution bench of the Supreme Court, in which case held that alienation of scarce natural resources like spectrum, the state must always adopt a method of auction of giving wide publicity so that all eligible persons may participate in this process. So, of course, नीरज आडिया केस तो था नहीं, 3G स्पेक्ट्रम केस कभी हुआ नहीं है, टेलीगेट स्कैम भी कभी नहीं हुआ. द करेक्ट आंसर इज 2G स्पेक्ट्रम केस. इजी क्वेश्चन, ये ऑलमोस्ट सारे स्टूडेंट्स को पता होना चाहिए था. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट. The Supreme Court decision that for alienation of scarce natural resources like spectrum is based on which article of the Constitution? Very interesting. If you do not have good understanding of constitutional provision, then probably you will not be able to answer this question. ठीक है? तो और friends, it is very important for you to at least अंडरस्टैंड द बेसिक्स ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, क्योंकि बेसिक्स ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स है वो आपको आज नहीं तो कल हमेशा न्यूज़पेपर में दिखेगा. एंड क्लैट का जो डायनेमिक नेचर है क्वेश्चन का, स्पेशली व्हेन दे आर मोस्टली बेस्ड ऑन articles published in all these prominent newspaper like the Hindu, the Indian Express और the Wire. आप देखो लास्ट ईयर के पेपर्स जाकर मोस्ट काफी सारे क्वेश्चंस इन सारे सोर्सेस पे बेस्ड हैं. ठीक है, यहाँ पे आपको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रोविजंस और आर्टिकल्स दिखते हैं. Therefore, it is important for you to have basic understanding of all these provisions. ठीक है, सो ये जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का डिसीजन है वो कौन से आर्टिकल पे बेस्ड है? आर्टिकल 39 फॉर इंश्योरिंग फेयरनेस, इक्विटी एंड मैक्सिमाइजेशन ऑफ पब्लिक गुड. आर्टिकल 48A फॉर इंश्योरिंग environment is protected from harmful effects of telecom radiation. Article 21 for ensuring right to life is protected from harmful effects of telecom radiation. ठीक है, दैट मीन्स ह्यूमन लाइफ इज प्रोटेक्टेड फ्रॉम टेलीकॉम हार्मफुल इफेक्ट्स ऑफ टेलीकॉम रेडिएशन, या बोथ ऑप्शन बी एंड सी. नाउ अगेन दिस इज नॉट एन इजी क्वेश्चन. आई वुड रेट दिस टू बी अ मॉडरेट टू डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन. ये क्वेश्चन इतना आसान नहीं है, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स इसको आंसर नहीं कर पाएंगे. बट दोज ऑफ यू हु आर रियली कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट दिस क्वेश्चन, प्लीज राइट योर आंसर इन द कमेंट बॉक्स. अभी बिना हिचके, बिना किसी डाउट के अपना आंसर जो है वो कमेंट बॉक्स में लिखो आप. ठीक है, so I'll just give you 1 minute. Just read the question again, and whatever is your answer, please write it in the comment box. ठीक है, बहुत ही अच्छा क्वेश्चन है, शानदार क्वेश्चन है ये, और it is based on the understanding of some of the basic provisions of the Constitution. You have Article 39, you have Article 48A, protection of environment, जो कि अपने में सही है, and then you have Article 21. And option D talks about both Article 48 and Article 21. लेकिन हमारा करेक्ट आंसर क्या होगा? सो गाइस, ये आर्टिकल 48A एंड 21 इन दोनों में क्या है? हार्मफुल इफेक्ट्स ऑफ रेडिएशन ऑन एनवायरनमेंट है एंड ह्यूमन लाइफ है. क्या इस चीज से रिलेटेड कुछ भी आपको आर्टिकल में मिला था, जो पैसेज है उसमें मिला था? द आंसर इज नो. ठीक है, तो ये दोनों ही ऑप्शंस गलत हैं. देयरफॉर ऑप्शन डी इज आल्सो इनकरेक्ट. इन फैक्ट आर्टिकल 39 व्हिच टॉक्स अबाउट इक्विटेबल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ नेशंस वेल्थ, ठीक है, ये जो आर्टिकल 39 है, स्पेशली आर्टिकल 39B, ये उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है कि फेयरनेस होनी चाहिए, इक्विटी होनी चाहिए एंड मैक्सिमाइजेशन ऑफ पब्लिक गुड होना चाहिए. ठीक है, देयरफॉर ऑप्शन ए इज करेक्ट. नेक्स्ट, व्हाट कैन बी द डिसएडवांटेजेस ऑफ एलोकेटिंग स्पेक्ट्रम विदाउट ऑक्शन? अगर बिना ऑक्शन के हम स्पेक्ट्रम को एलोकेट कर रहे हैं, अपनी मर्जी के हिसाब से जिस जो मिल रहा है उसको कर दे रहे हैं, तो उससे क्या होगा? So it will increase transparency and accountability. Is this the correct option? The answer is no. This is absolutely incorrect. अगर ऑक्शन के बिना करेंगे तो ट्रांसपेरेंसी कम होगी, ओपेसिटी ज्यादा होगी. Hence option A is incorrect. Enhanced competitive fairness among bidders. Of course, yes, it will enhance competitive. What are the disadvantages? ठीक है, advantages नहीं है, disadvantages हमें देखना है. ठीक है, so this is also incorrect. Risk of arbitrary or biased allocation. This is correct. More effective regulation and monitoring. Of course, this is incorrect. ठीक है. So अगर जो सबसे मेजर डिसएडवांटेज है ऑक्शन के बिना एलोकेट करने का, वो है रिस्क ऑफ आर्बिट्ररी एंड बायस्ड एलोकेशन. ठीक है, हेंस ऑप्शन सी इज करेक्ट. द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज द रिसेंटली इंट्रोड्यूस्ड टेलीकॉम बिल्स provides for allocation of satellite spectrum through auctions only, compulsory administrative allocation, first come first serve basis, या both option A and C. Now this is also not an easy question, it's a difficult question. ठीक है, अगर आप करंट अफेयर्स को अच्छे से फॉलो नहीं कर रहे हैं, अगर आप बिल्स को अच्छे से स्क्रूटनाइज नहीं कर रहे हैं, उस पर आर्टिकल्स नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं, उसके इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स को नोट डाउन नहीं कर रहे हैं, इन दैट केस यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन. एंड फ्रेंड्स, लेट मी टेल यू वन थिंग, क्लैट 2024 में बिल्स के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस थे, बोथ लीगल सेक्शन में भी एंड जीके सेक्शन में भी. देयरफॉर इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू टू रीड दिस काइंड ऑफ न्यूज. ठीक है, इसका करेक्ट आंसर है कंपल्सरी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एलोकेशन. तो ये जो सैटेलाइट स्पेक्ट्रम है, दिस इज स्पेशल काइंड ऑफ स्पेक्ट्रम, और इसका जो एलोकेशन है गवर्नमेंट वांट्स टू डू थ्रू एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एलोकेशंस ओनली. ऑलराइट. द न्यूयॉर्क पुलिस स्टॉर्म कोलंबिया यूनिवर्सिटी. क्यों भाई, क्यों है क्या, व्हाई दे हैव स्टॉर्म्ड Columbia University? Because more than 100 people, they were protesting against the ongoing war. Which war we are talking about? So of course Israel, जो Israel's illegal occupation of Palestine है, उससे related ये news है. ठीक है. So I'll just will briefly sum up all the important articles, all the important points with respect to this news. So NYPD, that is New York Police Department, it used a military-grade vehicle with an extensible ramp to access Hamilton Hall. Hamilton Hall is a place in Columbia University where all these people were protesting, and anti-war protesters were located. The police, they arrived there and they surrounded the areas like Gaza Solidarity Encampment. So university में एक ऐसा place है, Gaza Solidarity Encampment, where all these people, they used to assemble and peacefully protest against the policies of US government, which is somehow supporting Israel in its war against Palestine. ठीक है. So tactical operations था, lockdown and threats ये भी use किया गया. ठीक है. All right. Next, a lot of individuals were arrested. More than 109 individuals, they were detained, and NYPD intervened following vandalism and blockade at Hamilton Hall. ठीक है, clear है? So you must be aware about this fact कि अभी Israel and Palestine के बीच में relationship, I mean there's an ongoing conflict between both the countries. ठीक है, बीच में अभी Iran also got involved. So ये जो आज के डेट में वर्ल्ड इंटरनेशनल न्यूज में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज है, एंड आए दिन इसके ऊपर कोई ना कोई आर्टिकल आपको मिलेगा ही. ठीक है. By the way, can you please tell me if Palestine is a member of United Nation Organization? क्या यूएनओ का पैलेस्टीन मेंबर है? If you know the correct answer, please write it in the comment box. और अगर आपको नहीं पता है तो आप थोड़ा और इंतजार कर लीजिए. Stay till the end of this video. I'll hardly take 5-10 minutes more and I'll tell you the correct answer. But इसका आंसर बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है क्लैट 2025 के पर्सपेक्टिव से. So stay till the end. Next, please go through the passage. You can stop the video for a few seconds, go through the passage, or you can take a screenshot, and then we can move on to the questions. All right, moving forward, the first question that we have here, people were primarily protesting at the university against. क्यों protest कर रहे थे ये सारे students? Was it because of US involvement in Israel-Iran conflict? Was it because US is supporting Israel for illegal occupation of Palestine, or Israel's recent assault on Gaza with US weapons and funding? इन तीनों में से कौन सा है? एंड चौथा ऑप्शन है ऑल ऑफ द अबव. नाउ दिस क्वेश्चन, मोस्ट ऑफ यू विल प्रॉब्ली स्टिक टू ऑप्शन डी, एंड ये थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग क्वेश्चन है. मैंने जानबूझ के इस क्वेश्चन को थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजिंग रखा है क्योंकि लास्ट ईयर क्लैट में भी कुछ ऐसे क्वेश्चंस आए थे. सो इफ यू कैन रिकॉल, देयर वाज वन पैसेज ऑन जलियांवाला बाग मैसेकर, एंड क्वेश्चन वाज basically the question was on the reason why General Dyer ordered his troops to attack on the peaceful protesters. ठीक है, इस पे था ये. एंड दो ऑप्शंस उसके काफी क्लोज थे. एक तो ये था कि ही वांटेड टू टीच द प्रोटेस्टर्स लेसन, एंड द सेकंड ऑप्शन वाज बिकॉज ही वांटेड टू एनफोर्स मार्शल लॉ, दैट इज रॉयल अटैक. बट इन दिस केस क्लैट जो है उसने कहा कि नहीं, ही वांटेड टू टीच अ लेसन टू दीज पीसफुल प्रोटेस्टर्स. ठीक है, तो ये थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग था. ये भी क्वेश्चन जो आपके सामने है, क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, दिस कैन बी अ बिट कंफ्यूजिंग as most of you can think that option D is the correct answer. But honestly, मतलब in my opinion, option D is not the correct answer. Why? Because the question is asking you specifically, okay, what is the prime reason, what is the main reason, ठीक है, why students are now protesting. So primarily they are protesting because Israel's recent assault on Gaza, अभी जो ongoing conflict है उसमें US is helping Israel with weapons and funding. So this is the prime reason. See, Palestine ये तो ऑक्यूपाई हो ही रखा है, ये अभी से नहीं है, काफी टाइम से ऑक्यूपाई हो रखा है. सो दिस इज नॉट द इमीडिएट कॉज ऑफ फॉर दीज प्रोटेस्ट. सिमिलरली ईरान इजराइल कॉज conflict, yes, this can be one of this can be among the sidelines of the protest, but this is not the prime reason for it. So the prime reason is option C. What is the primary demand of students protesting at the US university? Are they urging US to mediate a peace deal between Israel and Palestine? Or are they urging United Nations SC to pass a resolution? ऐसा कहीं पे भी नहीं है, कुछ न्यूज में नहीं है. ठीक है, so this option is wrong. Demanding the US to impose a sanction on Israel. Are they demanding? Are there such demands made by these students? The answer is no. ठीक है, peace deal mediate करने के बारे में भी नहीं है. So what are their demands? So they are basically asking the universities to divest from corporations profiting from Israeli occupation and dividing safe environments for Palestinians across their campuses. ठीक है, स्टूडेंट्स प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं ना, तो वो अपने डिमांड्स को ज्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, ये बाकी तीनों ऑप्शंस है वो इनकरेक्ट है. ऑप्शन डी इज करेक्ट है. Next, these are a few questions which are based on some static information that you must be aware of. So, during which year Six-Day War took place? So, Six-Day War, it was a war between Israel and Arab, and second war था 1948 के बाद ये second war हुआ था, Six Days War, and it took place in the year 1967. Israel emerged as the victorious country. ठीक है, so Six-Day War. Then the next war which took place between Arabs and Israel, it was Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur, it is one of the holiest day in Israeli calendar. Yom Kippur, इसी दिन अटैक हुआ था इजराइल के ऊपर, and this war took place in the year 1973. So you must remember, you must read Israel Palestine in depth. मतलब उसको अच्छे से आपको कवर करना है, बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है और इससे क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं. Then Camp David agreement was mediated between Israel and Palestine. And which country mediated it? Was it United Nations? Was it United States, European Union, or Arab League? Now again, this is very important landmark agreement between Israel and Palestine, and it was mediated by United States in the year 1978. ठीक है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये आप ध्यान में रखोगे. So these were three very important news articles that you should have read in today's newspaper. अगर आपने नहीं पढ़ा था तो मैं डिस्क्रिप्शन जो है इन तीन न्यूज आर्टिकल का आपको यूट्यूब पे, आई मीन जो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स है उसमें दे दूंगा इन तीनों के लिंक. प्लीज मेक श्योर दैट यू हैव रेड इट एंड यू हैव you go and do some background research on all these topics. It will help you in your CLAT 2025 exam. All right, so thank you so much guys. Tomorrow we'll catch up again with some new interesting topics, those topics which we'll see our news in our Hindu newspaper. All right, so thank you so much guys.